Hi everyone, welcome to Meeple Bits. I'm Ryan Novak. After being stripped of all their possessions, a mage, a warrior, an elf, and a dwarf are forced to go rob the local Magic Maze shopping mall for all the equipment necessary for their next adventure. They agree to map out the labyrinth in its entirety first, then find each individual's favorite store, and then locate the exit. In order to evade the surveillance of the guards who eyed their arrival suspiciously, all four of them pull their heist together simultaneously and then dash for the exit. That's the plan anyway, but can they pull it off? Magic Maze is a game for 1 to 8 players with a playtime of about 15 minutes, developed by Casper Lap and published by Dude Games. So join me as we go through a quick playthrough of Magic Maze. So before we begin, let's go ahead and take a look at what a game for 3 players and its setup is going to look like. The components that come into the game are going to be a player board, player tokens, a listen to me marker, some X's that will block off some parts of the map, tiles that'll indicate different areas and rooms of the mall, and a starting tile, which is 2-sided, depending on the scenario, and then the different movement tiles. So the 3 movement tiles that I have out now are for a 3-player game, but as you'll see, depending on the game type, there's going to be a lot more tiles to choose from. So these are the components of the game. Oh, and then a timer. This timer is for 3 minutes, and that's roughly the time that you have to get through the mall to get your equipment and escape. There are certain areas within the mall, like as we can see here with this starting tile, with this red timer here, which will indicate that you can pause the timer so that you can start to discuss. One of the unique things about this game is that as it plays out, there is no talking. And that's really the main differentiator of this type of game and why it's important to use the, hey, there's a movement for you marker, because everyone's playing the game simultaneously. So everyone's going to receive a movement marker, and you're always going to face it north relative to your position. So if we're looking at this starting tile, that's north. So if I were sitting over here, this would be my tile. And so I would always know that I'm going to be moving pieces if I'm facing that way to the right or down towards me. But if we're looking at it from this angle, we're going to be moving pieces up or to the right. So the game is played simultaneously, so we're all going to be moving our tokens around the mall as the tiles get laid out throughout the course of the game. Depending on the setup, you're going to choose a scenario from the rule book. I think there's 17 total scenarios to choose from. And as we go through it, we're actually going to dive into probably the beginner scenario just so that we can understand how to play. But that's the components of the game, and you're essentially using everything. And what you're going to do is, depending on the number of players, as indicated in the lower right-hand corner of this tile, I'm going to set it up for 3 players. You're going to choose the different tiles that have the correct number of players for the game that you're playing. So if you're playing solo, then you're going to pick all the 1s. 2-player, there's a tile out here that's for 2-player. It's probably still in the deck. But yeah, that's going to be the initial setup. So I'm going to go ahead and organize the board, and we'll come back and dive right into a game of Magic Maze. So here's what a start might look like. And the objective of the game, as I mentioned, is to escape the mall after collecting all 4 pieces of equipment: yellow, orange, green, and purple. So for scenario 1, it told me to go through the tiles, select tiles 2 through 9, which I've done so. It'll ask me to shuffle it. And what we're going to do as the game plays, each player is going to draw and then pull up one of these. They're going to be face down, but we're going to draw them up, and then eventually we're going to find this exit. So this is the only exit in this one scenario. And you'll notice also indications here with these squiggly lines. You'll also see a squiggly line here. This is to indicate that teleporting is still an active ability. Once all 4 pieces of equipment have been found, then the dash for the exit begins, and this will get flipped over, indicating that teleporting is no longer active. And the player that has the teleport action will flip their tile over, indicating that teleporting for them is no longer an active ability. So I've set it up, putting our tokens on their respective origins, so green on green, orange on orange, so on and so forth. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw up tiles. So as the game progresses, just as an example, before I shuffle this, I'm going to draw up this one. Let me go ahead and move this way off to the side because I'll need the room. So if I draw this one up, I'll need to angle it so that I can see the 2 doors that connect with one another. So I could either put it here with green, I could put it over here with orange, and yeah, those are really only my 2 options. So that kind of gives you an idea of how the movements are going to happen. So those are not to indicate that that's the only player that could go through the door, but that's how the setup has to happen. And as I glance around the board, I notice a small correction. Sorry about that, guys. Movement happens in such that this is the only color that can explore in that direction. So orange will eventually need to touch this tile to draw up the next one, and then they're going to take the arrow and place it onto that door so that anyone can then move through. However, on this tile, green would have to get all the way over here to explore to be able to flip the next tile. So slight correction on my a moment ago statement. All right, but let's dive right in. Let's give this a quick little shuffle and see if we can't get our gear and escape the magic maze. So the game is played simultaneously, so I'll be playing the role of all players in this fictional 3-player game. But what will happen is we'll simply flip the timer and the game will begin. Again, if a player goes here, then the timer is laid onto its side, thereby pausing time and everyone can stop. But in the meantime, the only communication can happen with this red token. So if players around the board are, seeing that another player has a valid movement that they need them to do before they can do their job, they pick up this I forget what they call the token. Let me go ahead and pull up the rule book and find out what they call that. The do something pawn. That's what it's called. The do something pawn. So they would pick this up and say, basically indicate, hey, there's something for you to do. So if I'm sitting here and a player over here needs to do something, I tap it on them to say, hey, wake up, and if this is their piece, there's a movement to the left or in their position to the down movement that they need to do so that I can, if this were my marker here, move a position down or use an escalator or do the search function. So during this game, I'm going to be the only one flipping tiles because I'm the only one that has the search. So once a player gets to any of these search markers, I need to hurry up and flip and reveal the next room so that we can continue. So I'll flip the timer and let's dive right in. And go. Okay, so no talking. Sorry, guys. Okay, so for demonstration purposes, I went ahead and went on the timeout marker. Once I've done that, I need to pick up an X and place it underneath it to indicate that that spot has already been used. So as I go through, I'm going to try to point out the different tiles that I'm using through the game. so that we have a general idea of which action I'm taking. But as you'll notice, I can take as many actions that I want to any given direction. So in this one, I can move to the right for any of these pawns as many times as I need to. So I've just unlocked in this room a portal for purple. So purple, I could get them by using this twice over 2, but then I also have the up, so I would be able to move them over and up 1, and then over 1 more time. And then player over to my left would then need to use the teleport action to bring them over here. So that's how that is played out. So in this kind of pause phase, we can take as much time as we need to sort of talk out our strategy and determine what our next actions are going to be. So stepping right in, let's go ahead and take it away, flipping the timer back up, game on. Okay, back to the search. And we found the exit, so we at least now know where we're trying to get to. And we finally found yellow's equipment, so we know where yellow needs to get to. Okay, now that I've reached this position, I've reached the first treasure. So I've gone ahead and picked up that treasure. Now I can't make my dash until all players have reached simultaneously their treasure markers. So one by one, I'm going to start to pull out more of these tiles as the game continues and progresses, linking them together. So here's the purple treasure. Purple's going to need to make their way over here. But of course, purple would be the only one that would have to be there in order to search that spot. And let's go ahead and set that one right there. Okay, so now that all tiles are out, there's no more searching that needs to be done, but each player is going to have to make their way around the map, making sure that all players are paying attention to the different positions that are out there so that we can get every player. Here's orange. They're going to have to make their way down and around to get onto this spot. Green. Where's the green treasure? There it is, green treasure. So I'm going to take this teleport here, teleport over here, do the different movements to get myself over onto that treasure. And now that we're all on the treasures, whoops, this actually should have been here the whole time. Now that we're on this part of the treasure, as you can see, time is already up. So as we went through, we probably would have done more pausing throughout the game, but once we've all reached our positions, we then flip this over and begin making a mad dash for the exit. Yellow is closest, so they'll probably try to make their way over here, slide up. Once they've exited out, you'll put their token over on the side of the board. Anyway, guys, that's how Magic Maze is played. And so this scenario 1, as indicated here, is just these 9 tiles, your starting tile, and the 8 that they indicated that you bring out. But the object, no talking throughout the game. You have 3 minutes to get to the treasures and out. You can pause it by actioning on the different pause locations. You can teleport through here, take escalators, etc. But that's Magic Maze, and so here's all the different movements as well. Hope you enjoyed, guys. Stay tuned just for a moment while I clean up the table, and I'll give you my afterthoughts. Alright guys, thanks for joining me for Magic Maze. I hope you enjoyed the quick playthrough of it. As you see, I didn't do so well playing it solo as a 3-player game, trying to do everything. But one thing that I really enjoy about Magic Maze is that it plays very quickly, so that's always good for myself and my group. But the unique behavior mechanic of the game itself, whereby during the game, if the timer is on, there's no talking. So it really kind of creates some high tension, and you really have to kind of control yourself and hold back from an instinctual reaction of, hey, come on, wake up, you gotta move your token right here. So I really enjoy that aspect of the game. There's definitely some high tension scenarios and it's quick pace, so you're trying to quickly move and see the different things that are happening in and around the board at any given time. So you have to be able to pay attention, and that's really cool. One of my gripes about the game, and it's really silly, but the box, the inside of the box itself, and I'm really weird about box inserts, but for this one, there isn't one. It's just an empty box with a lot of air and a lot of space. So I thought they could really have condensed the packaging down quite a bit so that it would fit nicer and easier on your shelf. So it's a silly negative remark to give to an otherwise fun yet strategic game, but if you enjoy fully cooperative games that have a lot of strategy, a lot of paying attention to them, and no downtime between quote turns, because everything's being played simultaneously, and it's not like I'm specifically the yellow token, I'm now specifically movement in this direction, which I think is pretty neat. So kind of turns things around a little bit for players, gets you thinking a little bit more. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed Magic Maze. Definitely something to add to your collection. I really hope they do a reprint in a smaller, more condensed box, because the components are not very large and you could fit it in probably easily half this size, so again, small, trivial thing to complain about, but otherwise a fun game. Anyway guys, that's Magic Maze. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Happy to answer them. Until next time, have a good one.